Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Confluence Cast presented by Columbus Underground. We are a weekly Columbus-centric podcast focusing on the civics, lifestyle, entertainment, and people of our city. I'm your host, Tim Fulton. This week, in anticipation of this fall's election, the Confluence Cast is endeavoring to introduce Columbus voters to the 12 council and 2 mayoral candidates in their own words. Today, as an introduction, I sat down with Columbus Underground to discuss the interviews, what listeners can expect, and offer a preview of the through-lines for how candidates think about the future of Columbus. You can get more information on what we discussed today in the show notes for this episode at theconfluencecast.com. Enjoy the interview. Sitting down here with Walker Evans, the editor, CEO, and co-founder of Columbus Underground. Walker, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Tim?
Good. We are on the tail end of 14 interviews.
Mm-hmm.
All 12 Columbus City Council candidates, the 2 mayoral candidates that will be on the ballot. And we're just basically here to do here's what's coming. Here's what's coming down the pipe.
Yeah, and when you say tail end, you mean you just finished the last one five minutes ago.
Mayor Ginther left 8 minutes ago.
Yes. He's just now getting into his car.
Yes.
Downstairs.
We're all done.
Yeah. Nice. Congrats. I know it was more work for you than it was for me.
Well, thank you for the use of your office.
Anytime.
Thank you for my brand new sign that your wife lovingly did say, could you please send me a receipt? We do indeed want to pay for that.
Yes.
So what's coming now?
Yeah.
All 14 of those interviews coming up over the course of the next month.
Yes.
So my thinking, and I've run this past you beforehand, is to, well, first of all, let's talk about how we conducted the interviews.
Yeah.
So for the council candidates, so of the 12 council candidates, there are 6 of them that are currently holding elected office. They're currently seated as Columbus City Council members. There are 3 that are attempting to be council members that are considered quote unquote endorsed
by the Democratic
Party. There's some nuance there about the fact that they weren't actually endorsed by the party fully before they announced their candidacy, but that's a whole separate kit and caboodle. And then there are 3 folks who are additionally running for those 9 seats. I realize that that's a little confusing. The only point there is that in the interest of fairness, I drafted a slate of questions that I shared high-level overviews with each of the candidates, and I asked them all the same questions.
Right.
I asked them about their background and what brings them to their candidacy. I asked them what issues they felt Columbus faced. I asked them how they felt about the new districting process, and then I asked them why people should vote for them.
Nice. I haven't read through any of the transcripts yet.
Okay.
I didn't sit in with you on any of these interviews.
Correct. Who's going to win?
No. Were there themes that came about when you asked them, what are the most important topics? Were they all kind of talking about the same things?
They're all unified. Most of the common themes were around the second issue. What is Columbus facing?
Okay.
And that was, I think, 90% of the candidates all said some variation on growth.
Okay.
That
I was going to make a guess.
Okay.
Housing
is part of that growth.
Affordable housing specifically.
Yep, absolutely.
Transportation infrastructure. Probably came up a lot. Policing and safety probably came up a lot.
You'd be surprised from whom? That's the interesting part,
no,
right?
Yeah. I just meant kind of broadly.
Yeah.
In general.
Yeah.
The big things. The big things.
Yeah, absolutely. And the so I guess what I'm trying to impart to people is these may be some of my most boring interviews I've ever done, in that I was trying to be not necessarily even equitable, but truly equal with each of the candidates.
So people will hear you saying the same thing.
They will hear me saying the same thing and may even say, Tim would normally step in at a situation. And don't get me wrong, I wasn't just here quiet the whole time.
Yeah.
But I did try to not challenge things that folks said because the idea is to give them basically similar to what the dispatch does and just gives folks a questionnaire. There's no back and forth there.
Right.
And if this is the method for folks to learn about candidates in their individual district, sorry, everybody's voting at large, but to learn about the candidates in general, I wanted the candidates to have the opportunity to give it.
Yeah. And I'm sure it's still an interesting listen just to see what everyone had to say about things.
Absolutely.
Were there any like little nuggets you remember? Because it's been going on for weeks now at this point. So I'm sure it's a little hazy thinking back to the originals, the first couple. Were there any little moments that jumped out to you as like surprising? Like, oh, I didn't think this person was going to talk about that.
I think the districting thing was the most surprising. And I encourage everyone to go back to our rant / explanation of districting. But surprising how differently folks understood it. Not so much the mechanics of how it's about to work, but how it will work going forward. And that's specifically around constituent services and whether folks will have additional sort of like accountability to their constituents within their district.
Like, is trash pickup gonna vary district by district? Like,
well, and yeah,
is that like levels what you're talking about?
That shouldn't, right? But like,
but concern about that sort of thing.
Concern about that sort of thing. I guess more like we were just talking about my brother-in-law that he wants speed bumps on the street, and who does he call for that?
Yeah.
And my answer was, well, you could talk to your area commission, or you could call the mayor's 311 line.
Sure. Yeah.
Is there going to be another basically line of defense that, hey, I can call my district person, or does it immediately fall on, whereas previously it would just fall on the committees?
Yeah.
Right.
I would think there wouldn't be a lot changing. I mean, because services run under the sort of executive branch of the government should still be continued to run by those services.
Right.
You wouldn't call up your city council person to let them know that like your yard waste didn't get picked up.
My counterexample there is I would call my congressperson if I needed,
about your yard waste.
If I needed something in Veterans Affairs. Like, that is literally the person you're supposed to go to in order to, like, hey, this isn't working out for me. How can I get something done?
If it's not, yeah. I mean, if you needed something
you
from
should
Veterans
go through
Affairs,
the
you call Veterans Affairs, right?
But the example I'm making is if government isn't working for me, who do I call?
Gotcha.
In order to hold accountable for it? Yeah.
I would just argue that I want a speed bump on my street isn't government not working for me. It might just be this isn't the kind of road for that. You don't get to put a speed bump anywhere you want one just because you want one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that being said about the interview structure of the council candidates, one of them I treated a little bit differently. Okay. It was Shannon Hardin, Council President Shannon Hardin, for I think a couple of reasons. One, he's running unopposed. Two, I interviewed him last year, so it's like I can't just give you all the
same questions,
right?
Yeah, tell us your background.
And the unopposed part, it's just sort of like you don't need to make a pitch here.
Well, and just to recap, I know we've said this before, but 6 of them are running unopposed.
Yeah, and I think only one of the non-currently seated ones is being challenged. It's Nancy Day Ockauer, right?
Remy is running against someone.
No. Sorry. So among Chris Weich, Melissa Green, and Nancy Day Ockauer.
Yeah. Oh, of the 3.
3 non-sitting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct. I believe that's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm almost positive.
Because the other 2 that are being challenged that have an opponent for their district are Remy and Bankston, who are both currently council members.
Correct. Yes. We'll draw a map or something. I asked you for a graphic, but I got this poster.
It wasn't in the budget.
With Shannon, and I told him all that before. I was like, hey, everybody else, they all got the same questions. We just talked last year. Can we just talk?
Yeah.
And so we just talked. And it was, I think, a really fruitful conversation.
Cool. Yeah.
In terms of how we release these over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to do Shannon first, and then just each other council member individually, probably Monday, Wednesday, Friday, over the
council candidate.
Council candidates. Yeah. What did I say?
Council members.
Each council candidate. And then, as a bonus at the end, we have the interviews with both Mayor Ginther and his challenger, Joe Motel.
Right.
So those will be there. Maybe you and I will sit down over the course of this month and
talk more.
Do a little recap.
Sure.
Because I guess I don't want to reveal a whole lot of like, this person said this or this person said that.
Yeah.
And also, you weren't in the room. So I want you to be able to like challenge it a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's what the Confluence Cast, the newly launched Confluence Cast, is going to look like over the next month or so. We do have some exciting interviews coming up after that throughout the rest of the year. But as always, I think folks should feel free to reach out, pitch their ideas, or just say, what do you know about this? You and I have talked about doing maybe a recurring news thing where I don't let you get a word in edgewise too.
I'll interrupt. I'll butt in. Yeah, I think that could be fun.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
And like what folks, it's been easy to sort of create buckets that get filled. Like we have our arts bucket, our politics bucket, our development bucket.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff that happens in passing that would not require a full episode to be devoted to that individual topic.
Yeah.
But like on a Thursday or a Friday, if we sit down and like, what happened the past week?
Yeah.
There's a lot of things, a lot of like little nuggets and tidbits, and maybe 5 minutes on that topic and 6 minutes on that topic. And there's a lot to talk about. I
Absolutely.
think. Yeah. And sometimes it's, what was the reaction to the thing, or I think that could be fun.
Like the Greyhound station.
Yes.
Nobody talked about the Greyhound station. So if you're waiting for that.
Yeah. I'm working on an opinion piece about what we should do with the old site.
Oh.
Because it's been 2 years and there's been no movement.
Okay.
You want my hot take?
Yeah.
We should rebuild the Central Market exactly the way that it was.
Oh, I hope you have historical photographs to...
Sure, I'm sure they could dig up blueprints and all that sort of stuff. But like what same materials, same like do it as perfectly as possible.
Okay.
Like that would be...
I guess I don't know enough about the Central Market for that to be like...
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
I mean, it's an old market. It was an old market building. It's a very unique looking building. You look at it and you're like, oh yeah, that looks like an old timey market building. Whereas the North Market, the building the North Market's in, it's only been in that building for like 30 years. That's not the original North Market building. It's an old warehouse that it's in. This looks like a market that you would see in like, oh, you go to downtown Pittsburgh and they still have a market, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
who owns the land?
Coda.
Okay.
Yeah. Coda bought it off of Greyhound 2 years ago, and they said they're going to do something there. But also, like the Central Market didn't take up the entire footprint of that block, so they could do that. Plus, it could be a yes and they could do that, and then also build like a skyscraper next to it or whatever else they want to do. But I think from a like historic preservation, restoration, like when cities do weird, crazy stuff like that, like, hey, we lost this history 60 years ago, we're going to bring it back.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of cool, and yeah.
Well, and it works.
Yeah, it probably won't happen, but that's my...
I like your hot take.
Thanks, that's my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Anything else you wanted to get off your chest?
No. Let's keep this going. I'm looking forward to listening to what all these folks had to tell you.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. All right. Thanks, Walker.
No problem.
Thank you for listening to the Confluence Cast presented by Columbus Underground. Again, you can get more information on what we discussed today in the show notes for this episode at theconfluencecast.com. Please rate, subscribe, share this episode of the Confluence Cast with your friends, family, contacts, enemies, your favorite historian. If you're interested in sponsoring the Confluence Cast, get in touch with us. We can be reached by email at info@theconfluencecast.com. Our theme music was composed by Benji Robinson. Our producer is Philip Cogley. I'm your host, Tim Fulton. Have a great week.